Good afternoon and welcome to the Board of Education work session for Greeley-Evans School District 6. We will now come to order. Ms. Lemon, will you call the roll for us, please?
Director Azari.
Present.
Director Bentley.
Present.
Director Campos Fitzy.
Present.
Director Mash.
Present.
Director Matthews.
Present.
Director Norwood.
Present.
Director Sullivan.
Present.
All board members present.
Thank you, Ms. Lemon. First on our agenda is calendar review, community engagement. And so it's pretty light. We've gotten through a lot of what we're going to do. But we have some big events coming up. One, Wednesdays, our all-day board retreat. We'll start at 9 a.m. And then I think we have breakfast. Did I see we got an invitation for breakfast? What time is that, Ms. Lemon?
It'll be there at 8:30.
8:30, okay. So breakfast at 8:30. We're starting promptly at 9 o'clock. That's Ed Beatty Hall in Ames Community College.
Which one's at Beatty Hall?
It's where the president's office is, so it's not, you're not as far east as the Welcome Center. So it's Cornerstone Building, then kind of at Beatty Hall, and then,
The same one was that last time?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Across from the gym, do you know where the gym is?
You'll
Oh,
see it. It says big on the side of it, at Beatty Hall.
At Beatty Hall, okay.
Yeah, you'll see it. Call if you get lost. We'll guide you in.
There's, on the 16th, Northridge Marine Corps JROTC Ball at the UNC Ballroom at 5 o'clock. And then we do have a school visit before we break for Thanksgiving, and that's at Franklin on the 18th at 9:45 a.m. And that gets us all the way through to Casby. That's the next thing on December 4th. So anything else that we need on there?
No meeting in 2 weeks, Thanksgiving week?
No meeting in 2 weeks. We routinely on the 4th Monday of November and December, just because those fall in the holidays, don't meet. So, next on our agenda are board member comments and reports. And so we will start with Ms. Sullivan today.
Let's see. On Monday, I went over to Zoe's Cafe. They had a talent show. It was a fundraiser for Northern Colorado. The animals? That's horrible.
Oh, like the Humane Society?
Thank you. Yeah, they've changed names because they were recently bought out because the one here in Greeley closed and it was bought out by the one out of Larimer County. So they've did change their name. But yeah, they had a fundraiser and it was just the kids that showed up to do a talent show. I don't know, maybe about 25 kids showed up for playing, singing, dancing, doing gymnastics, different talents that they just brought to the stage. So that was a fun event. And then that was about all I had, but I do want to congratulate Ryan Gonzalez. He did win his election, and he's actually a former student of Northridge High School. So definitely want to give him some kudos because that kid worked really hard to, it's neat just to see somebody of his age getting active in politics and taking an interest in his community. So, and then Yasmin Navarra, she's our new state board representative, so congratulations to her.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Dr. Campos Spitzer.
So just wanted to talk about our Chapel School visit on Friday. Principal Christopher Kiefer and Assistant Principal Christina Kisak welcomed us into their classrooms. We went into several grade levels. I was impressed by their music and drama classes, but equally impressed by their 8th grade math class. And really just standing there, I felt like I learned about dilation, which a concept that the math teacher was teaching. So then their assistant principal bragged a little bit that this specific math teacher happens to be one of the best in the district. So was happy to see that our Magnet of Arts school, which is the home of the arts, is also teaching kids how to use the left side of the hemisphere of their brains as well. So really cool. Also wanted to celebrate a win on the ballot, which is the fact that Amendment 80 did not pass in the state of Colorado. I do think this will ensure that our public dollars remain in our public schools. And on the topic of school choice, just wanted to remind everyone that it is open enrollment time for District 6, started on November 1st and will run through December 19th. So if you want your kiddo to attend a school that's not your neighborhood school, go to the District 6 website and that will guide you on how to apply for your preferred school. It is not guaranteed and there's a lot of wait lists, but you can try. This applies to 8th graders as well as they're choosing their high schools. I know that on Friday evening at the Career and Tech Ed Center, the district hosted the 8th grade career expo just to expose our families and inform them of all the different career pathways that we have in the district and where they're housed in which high school, so that parents and their 8th graders are making informed choices as they choose the high school that best meets their interests. And lastly, I wanted to say thank you for hiring a new bilingual communications team member. I really do believe that having a Spanish speaker on the communications team will serve to improve our parent and community engagement in the district.
Thank you, Dr. Campos. Mitzi?
I did manage to get out to a couple of events, but on today, being Veterans Day, I want to take a moment to thank all the people, the men and women that have served our country, fought for our freedoms that we enjoy today. And I especially want to thank one of our own personal board members, Mr. Doran Azari, for your service to this country.
Thank you,
So,
Rob.
and last thing, 101 days till pitchers and catchers report.
Counting down.
Counting down.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Norwood. Mr. Bentley?
Yeah, kind of slow for me. I also just joined everybody at Chapelo on Friday. It's always great to be there. That school is probably one of my personal favorites as far as the bond updates. Just seeing the difference it made there. Just seems like it. I don't know if it actually is a little bit bigger and better than the other ones, but it just seems to it glows, and it just is a fun place to be. So the administration there did a great job, and just a wonderful school to visit. So looking forward to the holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Bentley.
Well, thank you again, Rob. And I also, too, would like to extend my appreciation to all our staff members throughout the schools who have served in the armed forces, and that they live through their service the words, service above self, that they are willing to do what is necessary in the best interests of our students, their families, and their fellow staff members. So I do deeply appreciate that, and call attention to the fact that the ROTC is going to be celebrating its birthday on November 16th. And I think that that's great that we have that unit out at Northridge, and I appreciate their service and commitment to our students. And finally, I also went to Chapelo, and a great school visit once again. And I know that those can be challenging for the administration and the staff to have the school board in the schools walking through the hallways and into classrooms. And I really do thank the staff members for their professionalism and their work with the kids under those circumstances. So that's all I have. Thanks, President Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Azari. Vice President Mesh?
I also enjoyed our visit to Chapelo, and it was great that it lined up. We got to see the orchestra practicing, the theater kids learning about Miss Saigon, I think is what it's just kind of how you can emote even when you're singing. And there's a third, was the band was playing too. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. I also was privileged to get to enjoy the Greeley Philharmonic Youth Orchestra performance, directed by Mr. Azari, and the orchestra has doubled in size since last time. The first concert I went to was in this very small kind of annex of the First Congregational Church, and this time it was in the big, beautiful, what's that word? Sanctuary, thank you. So yeah, the kids did amazing. Again, it's another wonderful way for our students from all throughout the district, and I think even Johnstown and Windsor,
Yes.
to get to collaborate. And then they had 2 trumpeters from the Greeley Phil do a piece with them, and that was just so, it just rang out in that space. So yeah, congratulations, and love to see that more and more students are embracing their
Agreed.
orchestral skills.
Thanks, Vice President Mesh. Don't have much to add. The Chapelo visit, as always, very good. I used to walk those halls all the time, and I just don't do that all that often anymore. So it was great to get to go back and see what's happening. It's always great to see the improvements and the difference they're making, especially on days where it's cold, and you also have other things going on. And I say it like that because oftentimes you would need to have kids in the gym, instead of on the playground, except that the gym was being used as a performance space. And so it's great to have that new performance space in that school. Also got to go to the Council of Student Representatives and be with those guys. We got some of their feedback on the cell phone policy and how it's working, and from different schools. And so that was interesting to hear from them. But that's pretty much my 2 weeks. And so thank you all, and we'll move right along to next agenda item, which is cell phone task force update.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews, and Mr. Osmus is making his way up to give this update, and I think Ms. Silva is going to join him as well. And the two of them have really been leading this work and leading the task force in this work, and I'll let them walk through a little bit of an update for you, and then you'll have an opportunity to share questions and comments, and they'll be happy to answer those questions.
Yes, we would. So thank you, President Matthews, members of the board, Dr. Pilch. So just thank you for giving us the time to talk to you, share with you what we've implemented this year and just how things are going. Cell phones have received a lot of attention over the last couple of years. And so we've noticed that, we've watched that, we've seen the trend. And so this last year, then we, knowing that we just need a strong start out of the gate, we started to reach out to some of the schools and reach out to our students and some of our stakeholders to listen to them and put a policy in place, but really the policy grounded in our own current policy, in our current practice, in our current policy that we have. And I just want to start with that here. And so this is part of the board policy that we have. And I just want to read part of this to you. And so the Board of Education believes personal technology devices may be useful tools for students in educational environment and can play a vital communication role during emergency situations. And I think that's pretty powerful too, because we all know that they do have some positives. However, use of personal technology devices, or PTDs, in school situations must be regulated to assure that the use of such devices does not disrupt or interfere with the educational process or school operations. And I think that's where we dug in, is right there in that area. And so thinking about our elementary through middle school, whereas we just don't use our cell phones at all, so not permitted at all. You would not see a cell phone in our kindergarten through 8th grade classes. And so then coming down to high school and listening, thinking about classrooms, like classrooms are just off limits in our classrooms. And then we do allow some flexibility outside the classrooms, but that was the regulated that we came to. And then with our policy, I didn't go. I'll get this. Nope, I knew that. There we go. So with a more regulated policy, we just know we had to strengthen and be more consistent with this policy. And so we also wanted a policy that was going to protect our teachers. And so we did not want our teachers to have this become their largest battle. So whereas teachers could just say, put the phone away, and if the student would argue, then this turns into an administrator action. And so we just want to make sure that our teachers could teach and our students could learn. We did all of this with the thought of coming out with a very strong plan in the 24-25 school year. And then, as stated, we just want to make sure that we were listening and being good stewards and good leaders in our district, to make sure we're listening to others as we pass the policy, as we created and supported the policy. I am going to get this. Oh. Okay, there we go. All right, I figured it out, but now we're one too fast. So there we go. So we did create a task force around this one to review the practices of our cell phone policy and the implementation, and to be able to progress monitor the use of this. And so we've been in classrooms, we've done cell phone walks, we've done a lot of cohort visits where we've been in the classroom quite a bit and just looking for not only good instruction, but also are the teachers and the students following the policy that we have put together. Our task force is made up of district leadership, Kim and myself, building principal, teachers from our high schools will be a part of this one. And we just say high schools at this point. Our middle schools and elementary, we just have a policy that just has no phones. And so probably won't see much of teachers or parents at that level, because we just, like, that's just cut and dry. We want to hear from high schools, we want to hear from parents, we want to hear from students. Around us, we did include some information around what districts are doing around us, and you'll see where we are, where we have a district-wide policy. Phone must be stored or out of sight. In our policy, we said, like, put this in your backpack, put this in your pocket, just don't want to see that. And then we also had the policy not in elementary or middle schools, and you'll see that there are a couple other districts, like Poudre and Boulder Valley, who have that same policy that we do. Do want to call out that Adams 20 does have a policy where they take their phones and they lock up their phones during the day. We did reach out to Academy 20 earlier this year, and this was when, and they did kind of a late policy, and they will say, we did this late, we did not get a ton of input from people, so it was a little rough start implementing. I have not checked in with them recently, but they recommended that whatever you do, that you get lots of input, and so I felt good about gathering the information that we had gathered. Sometimes I do go to schools and I see phones out, and I know that I've talked to several of you on visits where we've seen phones out, because cell phones can be used as a positive tool. We've seen cell phones used as language translations, and I've seen students that have taken their phone and they hover it and it turns into that language, and so they are following along with the work assigned, and they can see that in their own language that they're speaking. I see calculators. This does save that extra purchase of a calculator, and so if they can just use that right there. We had a couple situations early where we talked to some parents because for medical reasons, they just had to have their phone close by just for tracking of glucose and such things. And so by putting that in their pocket or close by, that seemed to satisfy the parent. And then lately, one of the schools, I swear I was going to catch a student. So I said, what are you doing with that phone? And so that would have been nice. But went over and they had pictures of their notes, because they said, I can't see that far. So I take a picture of the slide and I put that here, and then I just blow it up and I can take notes on the side, and then I have that for later too. And so there are.
I actually saw a teacher say, if you're sitting too far back, take a picture of this in the classroom.
And so there are some uses, and brings up another reason, like, can you have glasses? Can you not? Can you move up? But there are some reasons that we've seen students use phones in a positive way. Recently conducted some listening sessions with our council of student reps, through our administrators, continual ongoing conversations with administrators, and then through teachers with a Google form that we have sent out to team leads and such to just collect the overall impact of the cell phone policy this year. I would have to say that just calling attention to this policy is a great start. And so I'll say it's not perfect. There are times when I still go into classrooms and I walk out and I say, okay, we're not there yet with this teacher. But overall, when I talk to principals, they say 80%, 90%, and it's new. Anytime you have something that's brand new, it does take a little bit of time to get to 100% implementation. And so I'll let Kim talk a little bit about the feedback that she received.
If I may, I want to just clarify. There is no new policy. This is the policy we had. What the focus has been to really fully implement the policy we had in place.
Call attention to it.
Pay attention to the policy, call attention to the policy, and actually have teachers and administrators and students follow the policy.
And then I'll have Kim share a little bit of the feedback that we've received.
So I've met with mostly secondary principals, high school principals. I meet with them often, and here are some of the things that they have indicated to me. They've talked about the cell phone, that it's way down in their building. Although it's not perfect, it's way down from where it was last year, and they are grateful for that. They also said any teacher that is like really wanting this policy in the past, they were like, we just need this policy. And as a principal, I heard that too. If we had a universal policy, that would be helpful for me. That has really supported their work in the classrooms, particularly for the ones that were just really wanting that extra kind of backing, just to feel that they could just say, we have this policy, just put your phone away. They have indicated that a majority of the students are following the expectations that are set forth in the classroom, that they are, by and large, that cell phones are put away. They really are believing that this is the right level of support, that if we were to have a lot higher levels of support, especially at big comprehensive schools, it would be hard to manage. But They did say that, they also indicated we've got some consistency issues and we've got to work on those in our building, but it's a new policy and by and large, it's way down from previous years. And I met with principals as recently as last week to talk to them because I've talked twice.
You said it would be hard to manage. On the screen, it says a management nightmare.
That one principal said that. One of those are, a management nightmare was what one principal particularly said, like, to think.
And what would make it a management nightmare?
I think the worry is when they leave the school, if you take a school of 2,000 kids and managing 2,000 kids getting their phones back or, trying to figure out how they would do that for off blocks and when they go to different campuses, that would be really hard.
Okay.
I think that.
So this is the case where a phone would be locked up in a pouch, for example, like Academy 20.
Yeah, that's what they're thinking.
And then, so someone has to ensure that phone gets locked up, and then someone has to unlock that.
And this is
phone.
usually magnetized, and so you've got to stand by some kind of a device where they run over the device and unlock the phone to take that out and put that in, and take that at times, arrival, at lunch, or leaving for lunch, coming back from lunch, end of the day, for whatever reason. And so they went there with that and said, okay, we just need more people to be able to manage this.
They were just worried about how would we manage that, especially in really large schools, when you have students leaving and coming at every period of the day, and at lunch and all sorts of things, and what would that look like? It was just worrisome for those, especially at the really large buildings. Feedback from teachers. I had the principals send out a Google form to some of their leads teachers in their building, just give me a sampling of what teachers are kind of feeling. So I pasted some direct quotes from them. This was one particular teacher. I don't know exactly what school each one came from because they all just kind of came anonymously. This one just said, absolutely, I've always had a personal cell phone policy that has been almost exactly the same as this current policy, but this has really helped me enforce my rules. And this particular teacher said they've always known that the administrator would come support them, but that the messaging has just felt clearer and better to them. Another teacher said the department feels, because this was a department lead, so they talked to some of the departments, teachers in our department feels the use of a cell phone policy positively impacts the student learning environment because it's not the distraction that is there, so they were grateful for that. They did know, I saw this in several of the responses, that not all teachers across the school follow the policy. So we did get that feedback. This was a direct quote, so I know that because students tell me, teachers tell me, and I've seen it when I've gone into classrooms. I wonder what can we do just to ensure that consistency across the building. I saw that in several comments. Really appreciative for the policy. Definitely is down from last year, and we need more consistency really across our building. We also have substitutes and lots of different factors that can be taken into to play there, but by and large pretty positive comments, other than the consistency piece being an area of focus. Feedback from students. We met at Student Council President Matthews was there. His comments were kind of all over the place, but I'll try to summarize them. I don't have direct quotes because I really wanted to just listen. Here's some of the things that I heard, and I think they talked a little after I left, so President Matthews maybe heard a few additional comments, but one particular student said that they liked the policy. It allows for them to have them on them, but just not during instructional time, and they were appreciative of that. I did hear from a couple of students that when phones went into cubbies, they call them cubbies or cell phone lockers. If you think of the old calculator holders that, we had those fancy calculators, we put them in. There are some classrooms across our district, actually quite a few classrooms, are utilizing those where you put them in there. We even had teachers that took attendance that way, that helps too, because their phones were in there. The grades actually went up. Some of them were a little reluctant to want to say that, but I did hear it from a couple of people. Student Council of Reps is mostly juniors and seniors, I believe, and so we did hear teachers tend to be more lenient with upper grades, and I'm thinking these are juniors and seniors, so if they said, President Matthews asked once, is it better than last year? And they said, well, but I'm older and they're more lenient, I think, in the older grades, and we're getting ready for college and career is something they really leaned into. All of them said that, I don't know all of them, I think most of them think the policy is very helpful for younger kids, just maybe not me, but for younger kids, that it is really, that it may be helpful, right? They definitely didn't want a stricter policy. They appreciated that they could have it on them or in their classroom. But we definitely heard those things. It was kind of a little bit of like all over the place with kind of the feedback, but so that's what we heard from students. So we've just done that student council of reps group with students. I've talked to teachers and I've talked to principals at all kind of levels, but I haven't had as many listening sessions with students outside of that initial one. I would just say I am in classrooms though every week, almost every day, multiple classrooms, and have been a building administrator for many years in this district. And I sure don't see very many of them out. And it might be because I'm walking with the principal or an assistant principal, but it is significantly down from what it has been in the past, in my opinion. And I'm in classrooms almost every day. So that's just my thought.
And next steps, and many of you know that I just graduated as a senior from Northridge this last year, and I went to his conferences, and what did the teacher say? Man, he's sure on his phone a lot. If you could just focus, right? And so part of this could be living my own experience with my son to say, okay, we got to put these away. So we started these conversations. We're not there yet. We have a policy. We have many of the board members about it.
Oh, okay.
It is a book that just highlights a study of some of the psychological effects that phones can have on kids. And so if you focus on those, like you need to have systems in place to make sure that that is not their world, right? And so we feel like we're addressing that by saying when you're in class, like you've got to put that away because you will focus on this phone if we let you. And it can be addicting, so just put it away, and there is time that you'll have time for that, but not here in class. So grounded in that research.
So just a couple of questions. Before all of this was implemented, kind of throughout the state and the conferences, at CASB and other such places, that there could have been a potential for parent complaints, especially the younger grades, not necessarily high school. Have we experienced that at all in the school district?
For younger?
Yeah.
We actually, in our younger grades, we have had this for a few years. And so we've just,
Phones are just put away.
phones are just put away. They don't argue, and parents don't complain either. And so we just haven't had a lot of complaints at the kindergarten through 8th grade level, which is great. So a lot of this is focused on just being consistent at the high school level. That's because that is an area that we just haven't addressed as much as we could in the past. But this year, much stronger stance.
That's good to hear. And then the second question I have is the procedures involving consequences. Is that have those been established district-wide, or do you leave that up to the individual buildings to determine what's in the best interest of their building?
Yeah, we did add that to our student handbook on our called the behavior matrix, but it's our response to behaviors. And so that's in there as well. And we just don't want this to be a teacher thing. And so sometimes in the past, I know that teachers would fight the battle, and if they don't give it to them, the teachers might grab it, or we just want to make sure that we don't have that kind of battle. And so we said, just teachers, ask them, put it away. If they're not putting it away, then just contact your administrator and let your administrator handle that situation. But we do have systematic consequences that do grow for each consequence or each incident.
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing in this report this evening is that things are going smoothly in regards to these procedures at this point, including the consequences for behavior.
Yes, I think we've got that, yeah. And like I said, we're just working on the consistency.
Anthony has heard from parents when a cell phone has been taken away for the day. But that sends the message, and it takes care of the problem. It isn't a continual problem.
It's very inconvenient for our parents, especially in high school, when they don't feel like they have to come to the high school, but when they have to come get their phone, then that has a pretty good result. And we don't automatically go to suspension or anything like that. We really want to solve this at the lowest level.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So thank you for highlighting that consistency is kind of what remains to be figured out. And you, just your slide said, what can we do to be sure all teachers must follow the policy? So just asking that right back to you, like, what can we do to make sure all teachers follow the policy? Like, who would that fall on? Would it be the principal's job? Would it be higher up?
I agree. Right now, I'm talking to the principals, and so the teachers actually said, I think one of the comments, I'm not sure we put it in here, but it said, principals came out with a strong stance right away, but then as time went on, you just heard less and less about it, and whatever you're monitoring gets done, right? And so we just need to go back to that level of implementation that we had, and that same excitement we had coming out in August and September.
But it would be handled at the building level.
But it'll be handled at the building level, and we will work with principals, especially when we're in classrooms every week. And so it's when we have it in phones in certain areas, it's just working with teachers, respectfully, and then also just working with the principal to make sure that they are articulating their expectation.
I have several. Ms. Sylvia, you were in my room a time or two.
Yes.
You know how I handled kids that got their phones out. I growled at them. I think I growled at an administrator one time that came into my room and got on their phone. What's the policy to help teachers? Because I know when I was teaching, we all get tired and we get to where we just don't want to deal with it anymore. So what kind of support systems are there for the teachers that just shut their door and say, I'm just going to do it my way? That's one. I've got several other questions as well too. But after that one, then you talked about some of the kids use them as calculators and translators and take notes. Would it not be in the district's budget somewhere to buy cheaper calculators? And then the translators that we use sometimes at meetings for some of our students? And then cannot teachers sometimes upload their notes online for the students as well? So, sorry, that's a lot in one. But.
You want those, or you take them?
I mean, yeah, I think there are things we can do for sure to help provide support at all levels there. Because it doesn't help our consistency when it's okay for this, but not for this. And, that message gets mixed for kids. And so I think we can look at some things for sure. There are some translation devices that we have seen I saw one in a K-8 walkthrough that they were utilizing that was not a cell phone. That was something else that was being utilized. That was helpful for those students that were utilizing it. I believe that was at Toyton one day when we were there. So I think there are things that we can look at.
And I think that's the purpose for the walkthroughs and the listening sessions. And so if these are the current uses, are there some other ways that we can get the same result without phones and just put them away? Because first thing I do when I see a phone, I walk right over. What are you doing? What are you doing with that? And I'll say, put that away, right? And so, but many times sometimes they have a legit reason, and we just need to, in our sessions, say, like, do we allow for legit reasons, or do we problem solve around this and we just say, no, put everything else away?
Those of you who've been able to go on some high school visits with us, you've seen students using their phones for translation at the high school level. I do think...
We don't have enough right now of the translation devices, so if that's the direction we went, we would have to invest some dollars to get as many as we need.
We saw that at one of the elementaries as well.
With a teacher who used it with a student.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she did.
That was pretty impactful for me.
I think the teacher was most likely using her own cell phone. She spoke into it and then shared it with the student.
Oh, go ahead. You haven't done any listening with parents, is that correct?
We have in our DAC session coming up, we'll have a listening session with our parents and DAC, and then what we're asking them to do is go talk to their SAC and then talk to their parent community around there to bring some of that back to us as well. So that's our communication plan with our DAC, and that's on our agenda for this upcoming meeting.
Sounds good.
And then just one other question, and they're not necessarily related, but since I'm on the Student Health Advisory Committee, have we noticed at all with this cell phone policy or enacting it a decrease in cyberbullying or anything along those lines, even though we know that happens outside of school hours as well? But have we noticed that at all in our schools?
we did have a conversation around during class. And so sometimes things would happen and it would blow up during class and they would get on their phone and that would just consume them for that whole period. And so I don't know if we have the data yet to talk about what's happening outside, but I know that it is limiting. There's fewer incidents in class where students would blow up and get upset, and that's all they would do is be on their phone. In the book Anxious Generation, it just talks about how students are so addicted to their social media and their lives, and they're posting things that are happening to them, and when they post something, they're so nervous. Well, what are people going to say? And so they just sit on their phone to make sure that they're getting the right feedback for this. And so sometimes that was happening during class, and it was and it would blow up during class. And so we don't have that anymore. But like regardless whether it's at lunch or at night, it's
Right.
just it's something that we just have to continue to support our students.
Okay, thanks.
I don't think Mr. Norwood's first question was answered, which was something like, what can be done
Calculators.
if teachers are getting, they're just tired of dealing with it and they want to go in their classroom and close their door and do it their way.
Because there's not a consistent method, right? My understanding is that every classroom has a cell phone garage, but my understanding is maybe half the teachers use that. Students put in a
Yeah.
fake phone.
So we give teachers some choice. And so sometimes you'll see where they'll put it in a bin, sometimes they'll put it up on a thing, according to what we recommend is that you just put it out of sight. And just keep it in your pocket, keep it in your backpack. I just don't want to see it on your desk. And so lots of flexibility inside there. And yes, I'm sure there's probably a teacher who just comes in and probably has offered cell phones for a reward after your work or done something, and we're saying no, like let's do more work after work. And so there probably is still the teacher who's a carryover from that, and we'll continue to work with all teachers and continue to be in classrooms and support the.
Yeah, and I know this time of the year too, that teachers are feeling a lot of tardies and they're getting the testings and things like that. So I just remember, and even in my own situation, I would just shut my door and say, leave me alone.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that you guys are going in to help them, because I think especially new teachers that come fresh out of college are not quite ready for some of the things they might face in the classroom, like cell phones. So I think it's good that you guys are doing that too.
Yeah, thanks. And I know, to answer your question a little deeper, like we don't always just make people put it up visible. Some teachers, that's what they choose and they just want to see it, and we support that. But we try to give some flexibility on how they can manage that policy.
And I think that's then what leads to the inconsistency, because I can be like, well, Anthony has an A in my class, so I'll let it slide this time. But Kim, she's really struggling. I'm going to take her phone. And also, if they have it in their pocket, it's buzzing. I don't know. I have a much, I don't know. I feel like this is the issue. This is the issue for our students. And it can be addictive. It is designed to be addictive. We have given our students a highly damaging, highly addictive device to put in their pocket. Like, here, have just a little cocaine. Just use a little. Use it wisely. Don't use it during class. We wouldn't have a cartoon show on. We wouldn't have anything else distracting our students. But for some reason, why is this different? They can't bring toys to school. They can't bring a pet to school. They can't bring a gun to school, but they can bring their cell phone that disrupts them entirely from their train of thought. One of the teachers said that the measure of your attention span used to be, can you read 100 pages without stopping? Okay, for one, our students do not read at all for pleasure, right? I don't know any kids that read for pleasure. They're certainly not reading a book after they're done with their assignment. They're not talking with their friends. They're not playing hacky sack in the courtyard. Like, play-based childhood is done. The connection between students is lacking. And I also I asked every teacher when I went to conferences, and maybe it's that it's halfway through the semester and we're tired of trying. And even a student was like, yeah, they were real strict for a few weeks, and now they're not. And so, and I get, if a teacher has to call the administrator, that's a disruption. Like, they're like, oh, could you just put it away so I can get back to this? If I have to call the administrator, then they come in 10 minutes and then they deal with it. And then, I get it. I don't want it to be on the teachers at all. And so leave it at home, leave it in your car. I don't know, I feel so very strongly about it, and I know it's my own personal experience. My son, one of his teachers was like, I don't have a problem with cell phones at all. The next day, he was texting me in her class, asking me if we could buy this car for him. Like, it was not anything important, right? And I'm like, what are you doing? Get back to German. But it's not just my kid, I know that, and so.
I'll speak from the medical perspective. It's really interesting. I use these handouts at all my well child visits. So I see babies at their 3 to 5 day visit, a 1 week visit, a 2 week visit, 2 month, 4 month, 6 month, 9 month, 12 month, all the way through adolescence. And I have these handouts that are endorsed by the American Academy of Pediatrics that I hand out, and it's called Bright Futures, and it's just parent counseling. And it is crazy. I mean, the AAP is acknowledging this nightmare. And at like my 1 week visit, it's already on the handout of like, your family needs to come up with a media plan, and you do not put a 1 week old in front of a television. And like, I mean, it's just so real. And then in my adolescent visits, I give how to beat internet addiction handouts, and how to beat cyberbullying. And it's just real, right? Like, and the mental health problems that are coming with it are very real. So just want to echo the seriousness of it, and so glad that our district is doing something about it, and yeah, just wanting it to continue to improve.
I will say too that I've not been out of the classroom all that long. It was a battle I fought every single classroom, where you would be trying to get the kids' attention, and you know which ones are doing it when they're looking down. So maybe next year, the summer, when the new teachers come in, and not only with the students as well too, consequences but rewards. When we go out as a family, everybody's phone stays away. First person to get their phone out picks up the tab. So, I mean, consequences and rewards both, I think, would be good for students. But and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. That is a tough battle. I mean, this is really tough.
Sorry, Mr. Norwood, I think, do any of you have any other comments before I
Go ahead.
launch? Well, I think what we're seeing in the data from our principals is they're not asking for a more restrictive practice. They're asking for the policies we currently have to be fully implemented, and for those practices to be consistent. But I don't think we're going to see a recommendation come from the listening sessions that says we want more restriction. So I think if this board is desirous of more restriction on cell phones in our high schools, in all of our schools, that you are going to have a more deep conversation over the next month or two, and really determine if you want to make a policy to go deeper, and then to help us to determine financially what we trade off. And we have estimated this to be about a $1 million cost initially.
And that would be for some kind of,
Yeah, that would be if we were to lock cell phones up.
phones.
Yeah, if we were to do what Academy 20 did, our estimate is about $1 million cost to do the magnetic pouches. But I think that's a one-time cost that's somewhat ongoing, but it's not going to be $1 million every year. They're not all going to get ruined. They're not all going to get lost. But I think the bigger cost is probably personnel, that at a large high school, we would need multiple people to manage that, unless we want to put that on our teachers to manage it. And I don't think any of us do. I know you want to take burden off of teachers. And we can certainly learn in the meantime from Academy 20. They do have some larger high schools there, how they have managed that at their larger high schools. But I don't hear your task force saying we want to go more restrictive. There might be some things we could do to clean this up more. I think, I know one of the questions that some of you have asked me is, why is everyone just not using the phone garage? And part of it is teachers, they don't want to manage that. They don't want to look and double check whose phone is in the phone garage. They want to tell you, keep your phone put away, and if I see it out, I'm gonna let an administrator know that I've had to repeatedly tell you to put your phone away, Doran. And so, I do think the Teachers Advisory Council teachers have felt more supported than they ever have in the past. And it's really been about teachers just locking arms across a school and saying, we're all going to enforce this. We're all going to practice this. And when students don't follow through in the way they're supposed to, here's what we are all going to do. When it breaks down is when you have teachers in a building that may not be willing to do that or have decided, well, they're juniors and seniors. They can make the decision themselves. They're seniors in high school.
And they like to have the district cover. This is a district policy, which it is. It's board policy. But it just seems like we work on something and then someone says, oh, I think we'll use it for a reward. It's like, so no, we're just retraining. This is a year where we just retrain. We say, no, we're not doing that either. Like it's just, when we say no, it's just no. What we need to clean up though is a little bit, it's like, Mr. Wood, your questions around, like, if we use it for this and that, can we use it, people are just testing it, and we just need to figure out if we just say no, or do we allow some translation services? Do we put our dollars into that, and so we don't have to have phones for translation, but instead we have a different device, so there's really no reason to have a phone out.
I will tell you, I think this translation piece is, to see it as prevalent as we do is a new thing for District 6. We have 1,000 new to country students since July 1, and now that's preschool through 12th grade. They're not all sitting in our high schools, but the volume of students we have coming who are new to speaking the English language and reading the English language is significantly higher than it has been in the past, and so that's probably why we're seeing more students use their phones for translation. There is still more need for more translation devices, no question about it, throughout the system.
I don't want to get into an argument over semantics, but I'm curious about the policy. We have a policy that does not specifically address cell phones.
Yes, it does.
Does it
Yes.
specifically
Yes.
addresses cell phones?
Personal
But
technology
that's not
device.
in the school board.
Yeah, personal,
Policies.
That's
what is
the
it called?
the first paragraph is the PTD, which is the personal technology device. I put the first paragraph. The second paragraph talks about what they are, which includes cell phones.
So the language of that policy is specifically directed towards cell phones.
That it's our job to regulate the use of these personal technology
And
devices.
that policy, the procedures that you've come up with in the schools then are an extension of the school board
Right,
saying that we have adopted this policy.
correct.
Yeah, the policy does not outline the disciplinary actions. That's outlined in our response to behaviors
Behavior.
matrix protocol that we have. That's a part of our student and parent handbook.
I just don't know how far into the weeds we want to get as a school board in the governance of the district operations. That's the only question I have. Because there has to be some flexibility in the policy, I would imagine, inside the schools as needed on practically a day-to-day, month-to-month basis as you see the trends develop over time. That's what goes through my mind. So it does require more discussion, I believe, Mr. President, into the future.
Any other questions, guys? Thank you. That's very helpful feedback. I think that's consistent with what we're hearing, that things are better this year, and as you said, there's some consistency. If we can help clean up some of the consistency, it's hopefully things will be even better. So.
And I think the one thing I would like you all to explore further is the piece around what have other districts, large districts, done around the management of the cell phone without having to lock it up in a pouch, so that students still has access on passing periods and lunch periods. I know of a school in Kansas that teacher sees a cell phone once, it goes in an envelope, and an envelope gets sealed up for the rest of the class period. So that's one practice. I mean, you could do that in every classroom and have the envelope on every desk and not have to have the cell phone garages on the wall. Or how many people are doing the cell phone garages. So I think that's work of the task force to look at what else is working in other school districts with large high schools. Because really there's this do nothing, like we saw some school districts are doing, do nothing, allow it to lock it up all day long. Yeah. And so in between there, what is the right balance, or here is the right balance for District 6 schools. And I think that's where we really need the task force to explore and come back with some more information around that.
Right, I checked in with Thompson just this week, and they say this is not for us to be involved. They don't have a policy. Schools just need to operate this. So you have that level all the way to I'm going to take your phone and lock it up for the day. And so somewhere in the middle, maybe.
So Adams, this is only their first year of doing it.
Yeah.
So
And
they
they-
don't have any data like.
Academy
there's-
20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't have data if there's like.
Not yet,
that
they don't.
Student achievement or
No.
anything has went up or anything.
No,
yet.
they don't have anything yet.
And they did this very late in the summer too. So this is something they decided just on their own that they were just going to come up with this policy and implement. And so they
Through board action.
Yeah,
Through
and
their Board of
so
Education.
they had a rougher time implementing when they came back, just because they didn't have the input of the community. And so that was one thing they said early, we would have done differently if we had the opportunity.
Just,
And then I'll check up with them too to see how things are going.
just from everything I've heard and the our individual conversations and stuff, and we've had this policy, and I don't want it to be a rotation and a trending. We pay attention, and then in a couple of years we don't. We pay attention. I think most of us feel strong enough that we actually want to do something tangible to set the bar a little higher, and then we can fluctuate around.
Yep.
We can trend up and down from there if we're following that one. But I feel like we're ready to. I'm ready to do something tangible. So
What would that be?
some sort of policy, like that's where the discussion I think comes in. I don't think it's are we going to do anything as a board. I think what will we do as a board is more the right train of thought, at least from my point of view. It's just such a bad problem. In my opinion, it's ruining lives. So something needs done.
I'll just say one more too. I think it comes down to classroom management. The big deal, if you got a teacher that can manage their classroom, their issues will be less. Not gonna go away, but they will be less.
And that's what I gathered from kind of pulling the teachers at conferences is some people it's no problem at all. Like they run a tight ship and you will go to the bathroom when I say and you will not speak. And just that is the way their classroom is. And then there are other, and that's not to say that that's a better or worse teacher. There's one teacher who doesn't run her class that way at all, but she's just highly engaging. So the kids are just riveted on everything she says. And then what if your class is just not quite as interesting? And so I don't know. It seems like the best thing for teachers and for students is to just eliminate it. No phones on the property. You can leave it in your car, you can leave it at your house, or we can lock it up. But it does not come onto our property. I mean, it's just... And when we talk about 2,000 students, you're not going to have 2,000 students coming with a cell phone. Some of them will leave it in their car, they'll leave it at home, I don't know. But it is all the details, but yeah, I'm definitely in the same place of just, and when I hear some of the things I'm thinking about, I'm like, I must be just so old. Like, well, what did we do before that? And, I get the kids who need it for their blood sugar, but I can't think of very many other health reasons that you need a phone. And
We hear from parents quite a bit around just knowing where their kids are for safety and security. And so in a tracking world, they, for whatever reason, just want to make sure their students at school, that they're here, that they're in the right spot. Truancy, for whatever reason, is my child there? And so when we first came out with this, we had some parents that went to principals and just said, I just need to know that my child's here. Like, you can't take that away. And we said, we're not taking that away. We are just not having that out. And so we'll continue to listen for parents and to parents and to others and see what they would say if that was,
yeah.
if
I
that
feel
would
like
happen,
Infinite
and then give you that
Campus lets
input.
me know where my kid is all the time. Your
What's that?
child was, I said Infinite Campus tells me, your child was late, your child is absent. But yeah, and then we also have the ability to scan the badges for like the bus. Is that an option for the schools? Like your kid scanned in at 8 a.m.?
It would just be looking at options down the road. We'd have to, there's Infinite Campus does offer that, but it's
We have to pay for the next level.
$3, $4 a student, something, so it's, it'll times 23,000, so it'll be a price tag. And you can't just do it for high school, you have to do it for every student, or you can't or you can't do it. So it would just be looking through how much we want to spend on what area.
It's obviously, again, Mr. President, requires a lot more conversation, don't
It does, clearly,
But-
Mr. Osari.
But, other devices that are not cell phones.
That's why it says personal.
Yeah, and earbuds are in that, and.
So
and,
those also are included. Do we spell out
Mm.
all of this stuff?
We need to go read our policy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the
I
thing-
don't know what it
The thing is,
says.
as to what detail do you go into with the innovations and technology that continually
I know, right?
come out? This is my concern as a representative of the community.
But we update our policies every year, so we
Yeah.
can update them.
I will have to
as one
say,
as
I will have to say that I know of at least 6, if not more, students that have glasses that also have technology in their glasses. So if we do this, we'd also have to make sure that and those parents do not want to take those off. We've already said you have to take those off during a test, and even that's a battle. And so it is more, it'll be your watches, it'll be your phones, it'll be your glasses, it'll be, we would just have to continually track that and figure that out and
very good point.
make new policies and things as every time a new piece of technology is introduced.
Do we take away iWatches?
Not at this point.
We don't at this point. We do if they're a distraction. If the kids are sitting here doing this, then we do, and I shouldn't speak for schools. I'm not the one out there managing policies, but I have heard that when it's a situation, they have them put that away, but the glasses are a new one.
Yeah. I mean, it's changing a culture. It will take a number of years for it to be, we don't do technology in the classroom.
Well, and it's far bigger than just the classroom. I mean, it's really parenting as well, right? And what some districts have done is they've done a campaign where they get parents to sign an agreement at a certain grade level of that they, for example, they won't allow their kid to have a phone until 9th grade. So there are some districts have done campaigns like that as well, where they've worked to educate parents around every kid does not have to have a smartphone. And they maybe don't really need to have it until 9th grade. So I sent you guys an article on that that talked about districts that had led campaigns like that in the community for parents.
As a teacher, it was hard because sometimes the parents were the worst culprits because they were the ones that are primarily texting their kids all day long. And I'd say, put your phone away. But my mom, I'm like, I don't care who it is, put it away. And then you also have the issue where they have those math apps now. So I did the cell phone garages for test days. And if you got caught with a cell phone, I gave you an F because of the fact that the phones now have apps. They just have to hold it over it, and then it steps them through. Gives them the process to solve the problem, gives them the answer, and they would just copy that in. So it's a lot of issues with cell phones. Yes.
Like we said, there definitely needs some more discussion. I'll be anxious to hear what DAC, what our parents are thinking about the improvements or I guess it's not a new policy. What do we call it? But
It's new practice. It's new
our
practice.
new practice.
It's
Okay.
new practices. The policy's been there, but it's new practices in place to
And how
address
this-
the policy.
Yeah. So be anxious to hear from that, and we'll continue to discuss it. But thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Next.
Mr. You're next. You must stay where you are.
Next is I-2030 update, Student Learning and Achievement Goal 1 Profile of a Graduate. So, Mr. Osmus.
Thank you very much. Excited to roll out this new initiative that we have in our district called Profile of a Graduate. And I'll walk you through in this presentation to let you know what that is and your role in this process. And so we know as we educate students, it is more than just about achievement and more than just about the graduation rate, but there's a student inside of that as well. And so what we are proposing as we go through this project is to identify what are the attributes and personalities that we hold near and dear in our students, that we want our students to have as they work through our system. This is part of our Innovation 2030, so as always, it's always grounded in our mission and our vision and our values. And this last one, where we are committed to excellence and innovation and continuous improvement. And we've seen many districts across the state and across the country that are identifying those attributes and characteristics of a student, and what kind of student are we wanting to put into our community. So this is a great project, and it really touches all 4 of our focus areas. And so yes, it is around achievement, it is about graduation on time, but it's also about strengthening partnerships. It's also about being able to reach out into the community and talk to our community and get input from our community on our students and what kind of student do you want to have when you graduate? And for me, that I have 2 more students coming up. I'm excited to think about all the things that we can do to prepare them to be career and college ready. It also touches climate and culture, where we know diversity is a strength, and how do we make sure that everyone feels like they belong in our district, as well as operational and organizational effectiveness through our continuous improvement and our transparency around the things that we do. So let's set the stage here just a little bit. Turn and talk with the person next to you. And what are the cognitive, personal, and interpersonal skills you want a District 6 student to have upon graduation? Think about your own student, think about a student. What do you want them to do besides graduate? What are all of the attributes and interpersonal skills you want them to have? Let's just take a few minutes.
I want them to see what I call a 3D.
I did thought
I really want to.
From one Al is an example. It's good that he knows how to well. And he also knows how to manage business.
take care of the guys.
Gets you this well done, understanding. You want a welder that does not just focus on his body, knows how to get it. Yeah. That's a nice. So
I know as far as like careerness, readiness, on a personal level, like the soft skills are so much more important than their actual skills. You guys, the school district will never get them to the skill level I need them to be profitable. But if they are hardworking and honest, punctual, respectful, and those kind of things, those add more value than any welding class ever take.
Is to know the basics and how to communicate.
And then is what business is.
So I have my
And switch partners if you haven't already, or not switch partners, but make sure everybody got a chance to speak if you haven't already.
Every kid who goes through our school district, so they're
Yeah.
18 and they go out.
To be able to take in information to solve problems and then to communicate that. Both
Right there, coming.
So they have to be able to have math skills can be
Sugary beverages, they're gonna write 15.
read and write.
Things that I just can't believe, like, they're not common sense. When as a child.
And if you would, wrap up your conversation.
That was too short. No, you're right. Common sense is not.
And I would love to hear just a few things you said. Just shout them out. What are a few things you said?
Financial literacy.
Financial literacy, absolutely. What else?
Yes. How to communicate well.
You're focused on communication,
Communication.
interpersonal communication
Yeah.
with others.
Absolutely. So, in this work that we're doing, we are going to be creating a tool or a visual that highlights the cognitive, personal, and interpersonal skills that we want that students are going to have when they graduate. And so, in this initiative, it's very co-created. So we'll get to this in a little bit, but we are gathering. We have a tool to gather input from many different people in our community, including the Board of Education tonight. And so listening to teachers and to and students and our parents to create kind of a compass, kind of a North Star. And so, yes, we are going to get you to graduate. Yes, we want to be career and college ready, but also what kind of person, what kind of student do we want to create in our district? And then be able to have some shared language with this work and create this unified vision for a District 6 student. And so what I think I'm excited about too is it has the opportunity to bring our community together around this one. And then it shapes our curriculum as well. So what are some things that we can put into our curriculum? What are some things our teachers can say and do to focus on communication, to help with financial literacy, to just be organized and productive students? So this work is called Graduate or Profile of a Graduate, but it's also, if you look over here, Profile of Graduate, you might also hear from other districts, Profile of a Learner, Profile of a Graduate, like I said, or Profile of a Learner. Anyway, you think about all the skills, the district and the mission is embedded in this one, and so are the academic standards. And so this is really truly an effort to support the student. I want to give you a few examples of what other districts have done with their profile of a graduate work. And so you'll see here, Durango on the left-hand side, you probably see some of the things that you said in your conversations. Down the side, this is what their community thought was important. Also D51 on the other side, so you're seeing creativity, innovation, resilience, critical thinking, teamwork, self-direction, self-awareness. For my own child, like I wish he would have come out with a lot more confidence. And so I'd say like confidence would have been great for him. He's just so shy and you can't be shy. And so this over here struck a chord with me, this confident communicator. Just get up and be bold. A few more inside of here. So Littleton down here in the corner came up with this visual. You see many of the same words that are on here. And as we go through this, we have a process that we'll follow. The first is gathering information. So now and through January, we'll be gathering information from several different people. We have a Google tool that we send out to people, and they can fill it out, and it captures the information and puts everything into a big database. We are partnering with CEI, and they have a person there that will help us go through all this data and help us create some themes, and then from those themes to be able to work into a draft, and then from a draft into something that you saw out here, but that's going to be represent our system. The first one is called empathy building, and you'll see this in your survey coming up here, but what are your hopes and dreams for your graduate? We ask that same question often at our listening session. So what are your hopes and dreams of your student, and how do we capitalize on that? And then my favorite question is, what do you wish you had learned in school? And what do you think is the most important for students to learn? And sometimes you'll just hear that it's not always about the academics. Sometimes it's financial literacy. I wish we would have had that, but also how to be a communicator, how to be successful in school. We have already been collecting data, and so I put up here just a few things that I've already seen from our results. And so, like I said, I have access to this database, and so some things that are coming on already: achievement, student well-being, personal growth and dependence, values and character, overcoming challenges, belonging, inclusion, support and advocacy, and language and communication skills. Our work mainly will follow with our deck. And so this will be the work of our deck. Our first couple of meetings, we've talked about this profile of a graduate and what this looks like. They will be our group, mostly our group that we'll come back to with this information. And so in January, we will come back with all of this information in this big database and collect this and then put this into themes. And so as I'm working on my doctorate, I get to see the word theme all the time in these big categories that we can get behind. And so here's the data just comes over here on the side, and then we will work our way over to create our themes that are important to our community. And then once we get our themes, we go to work. And so our DAC, along with our Council of Student Reps, and we'll also include some community members, will go together and start creating some profiles, creating some rough drafts of what this might look like. Here's some pictures of some of the other districts that they've done as they've already themed and start to create some of these pictures. So with graduate in the middle, what are some of the words? What are some of the themes? Continue to work on what this might look like inside your school. And then you'll see that over here, the kids are drafting, and it turned into this for West Grand School District. And you see the working group that's in here. Here's a draft from Clear Creek and what it started out with, and then what it ended up to be. And then also here from Yampa Valley. And so it started with just some drafts and some pictures, and then coming together with something that their community could get behind. And also I thought I'd throw in Lewis Palmer for Dr. Dattery. We'll throw in her little bit of love for her. And so this was already done when she got down there, but this is some of the work that they did in her district down here, and this is what it turned into as far as here. So what we would like to do is do this work with our DAC, and with our council student reps and a few other people, and we'll go through this process, and we will bring you a draft of what we are thinking, and then always have you in the loop and be able to look at where we're going and offer us some feedback as we go back to work. And so we start this work in January by theming, and then February and March, we'll come together to do some of that drafting. And then we'll be able to bring you some kind of a draft probably by late February or March to get your feedback as we go forward. And I would do, and then I am going to get your input tonight, but I would love to do any questions that you might have on that first. And just your thoughts and your feedback on that.
A lot of the things that you have listed, I couldn't read them all,
Uh-huh.
see them all, but
Yeah.
a lot of things that you had listed that the students are lacking and the things that we were stating out here, honestly, I think derive back to students being glued to cell phones. They've lost the personal skills, how to communicate. They don't know how to have those direct conversations because they have a phone glued to their face. So it's taken away a lot of that, and the common sense just doesn't exist.
And
so
this
much.
could be an absolute way to embed that in our curriculum to make sure that's going forward. So, great comment.
Does this tie into Avid at all, what Avid does?
Avid supports this work, so I think this would identify some of those skills that we want our students to have, and then Avid would support that work and make sure that they mold it and shape it and support this in students as they work through. But Avid will probably show up in here, and then this group will take that and decide where that fits inside this draft.
You want the board to use this QR code to
Yep.
provide additional feedback if they'd like to,
Yep.
correct?
And so this is your opportunity. Take out your cell phone.
I already filled one out.
Yes. So
He probably as a parent.
you probably have. You may have. But we've already taken this to DAC. DAC is pushing this out to their SAC, their school accountability teams, and then out to parents from the schools. And so we're already gathering quite a bit of information. But we would love to have your input from here. And so I'll just give you a few minutes to fill that out.
Is there like a paper copy you can give those of us that aren't?
Yes, sir. Not with me, but
I've got some
I'll get
money
you
in
one.
whatever that place is where you can get money from.
Bank.
Somebody help me out. PayPal. And I don't know how to use the Q code.
Your software.
I don't know how to get it out because I don't know how to use the.
Get your
this
camera
thing.
out. You push the button.
Let me get-
This will take a little bit of time, thinking, a little bit of thinking time for me.
Yeah.
and you'll see this again, I'm sure. So it'll be. Yeah, it'll be-
I like to take these things
Right.
probably too seriously, but I still do.
Is this on our district website?
Not yet, but yeah, that's a great idea. And and our Facebook
But once
page
I get
too.
it, what do I do with it?
It'll take you to,
I'll take this,
oh, here we go.
Probably
You
tomorrow.
hit that little button.
do
Sorry, I didn't show
the
that to
work
you.
on it.
I'll just do the.
So you see this being
It takes you to
implemented,
a questionnaire.
the way this is
What do I
actually
do
implemented
with
within the
You just
schools,
submit it.
would this start
It'll answer
early
all
on
those
in the
things.
child's educational process,
Kindergarten.
talking about this
Kindergarten, yeah.
all the way through?
Yep, yep.
It
So
was
we,
actually
so we'll
tricky,
develop
'cause you would have had to know.
curriculum, places that we
So-
can implement
When I
curriculum,
get my
starting in
PayPal
kindergarten all the way through
account
12th
up and I
grade.
need to
Because we
get
identify
money
our big
out of it,
rocks,
can you
then
help
how do we
me?
make sure that we
I'm serious.
teach what it's like
So
to
sometimes
have
you have
those.
to, there's
characteristics to our
little square shows
students.
up and you
Yeah,
have
that's
to do
good.
that,
Oh,
which is, yeah, like an extra step. QR codes took me a while.
so what are we, educators or community
Digitally,
members?
terrible.
Community members, right?
And are we going to have staff members dedicated to support in this specific area, or is this something that is across all curricular
Yeah,
areas?
Just
and it's
infused
is-
in everything we do.
It's infused into it, okay.
I still get paper tickets to the Stampede, to the Rockies, to baseball games. Just watch. Airline tickets. Are you filling it out now? It's not yet. 'Cause now I gotta type all that in. My fat fingers, I do them one at a time. I'll have my son help.
So as stated, the timeline will be, we'll collect information from now until January. January, then we'll start theming and breaking into groups and start coming up with some pictorial representations of what this might look like. When we get that far, we'll bring that back to you for feedback, and then we'll work to try to have some kind of a draft by the end of this year, and then see where we are for further implementation.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks, Anthony. Well, we're to debriefing the work session, so we'll start with Mr. Azari.
Thank you, President Matthews. So tonight's session was pretty much all about Mr. Osmus and the works he's doing in the district, and Kim Silva. Anyway, thank you for that service to the district. And I know that the cell phone issue, it's near and dear to the hearts of many people. And we do need to take that work seriously so we can come up with a policy, if that is something specific to the school board that makes sense and is actual, and it can actually be implemented inside the school. So I appreciate the staff and their time really examining that, and the cell phone task force, their time on that. And I also am interested in learning more about the student learning and achievement, the process that we're going to be exploring here into the future that Anthony presented on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Azari. Mr. Bentley.
Yeah, just thanks to Anthony and his team on this. The cell phones have been a hot topic for a bit, and a growing concern of the community and parents alike and teachers and everybody, I think. So just especially us board members with kids that are grade school, in school, I think to a degree we see how much of a problem it is, and the effects, that it's having, and the frustrations that all the other parents are sharing. So excited that we're working towards trying to do something there, and looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Mr. Norwood?
I will echo that. I don't think people realize how big of a task it is to tackle cell phones. As a former teacher, I'll say it again, it was a daily battle. So really appreciate what you guys are trying to do. It's not an easy deal, but I think the right people are in place to do it. So thank you guys for that. Thank you for doing the I-230, and Doc, thank you for helping me figure out how to use QR codes. I don't know how to use it, but I got it in my phone.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add to everyone's comments. Thank you. Anthony and Kim.
Yeah, thank you. Again, they've already covered all of it, but thank you guys for that time, because, as a teacher, that was a bear every day to fight that challenge, because you wanted the kids to be on task and to actually learn and engage, and when they have those constant interruptions, it really distracts, and it's really hard to get them back on task once you've lost them.
Natalie?
Yes, thank you both for that presentation, and I know I have a lot of personal struggle with this issue, so I hope it didn't come across that I don't appreciate the work that you're doing. And I'm really excited about the profile of a graduate. I like how holistic and encompassing it is for our students who maybe do excel in some of those soft skills and haven't done quite as well academically, and vice versa, that this is really your whole person. So.
Yeah, just echo those thanks. Thanks for the work, and thank you guys always for the discussion as well. So, we're adjourned for our work session. We'll see everyone back in 40 minutes for our business meeting.